Hey folks, it's me Chris, and I wanted to take a few seconds of your time to talk about this awesome new opportunity that we've been presented with for all of our lovely listeners. We can now offer you all a 1-month free trial from audible.com, allowing you full access to a vast library of audiobooks to choose from. As I mentioned earlier, the trial is completely free, and all you have to do is visit audibletrial.com/GHS and follow the instructions to sign up for a free membership today. We hope you guys enjoy Audible just as much as we do, and thanks for your time. But alright, cool. We'll jump into our nerd news. And actually, dude, speaking of Final Fantasy, why don't you lead us into our first news piece, man?
So yeah, this is a big story that came out, obviously, which had the demo release, but the biggest news that we wanted to hear, which was Final Fantasy 15 has a release date. So Final Fantasy 15 will launch on September 30th, 2016, publisher Square Enix has announced. The date was revealed during the Uncovered Final Fantasy 15 event, which is being held in Los Angeles. Final Fantasy 15 was first announced back in 2006 as Final Fantasy Versus 13, one of the numerous titles included in the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. Although a few games in the mini-universe have been released, such as Final Fantasy 13 games, Versus went through a period of troubled development. After going quiet for a few years, Square Enix eventually reintroduced Versus 13 as Final Fantasy 15 at E3 2013. How many years it's been. The project had evolved significantly and thus become a core numbered entry in the series. Final Fantasy 15 will be available on PS4 and Xbox One. Although there is an official announcement of a PC version, references to a Steam and Windows 10 versions have been found. So yeah, big news. Big news. This came along with the announcement, obviously, the Platinum demo. And obviously, you know,
a lot of that event. If I can remember off the top of my head, the big news pieces was the release date, the awesome collector editions. There's going to be like an app that they're going to have, like a game that you're going to download later this year for smartphones, kind of like what they do with Fallout 4. What is it? There's going to be the demo is a big one. They're going to make a fucking movie that takes place during the game that has Lena Headey in it, Aaron Paul, and Sean Bean, who will probably die in it, I'm just assuming. and there's another one that was really big. Oh, there's an anime series on YouTube that's a prequel that's free to watch, and like that night they had just released the first episode. I saw it, by the way. It was pretty good. I recommend it. So all that, dude, plus more. I mean, it was a big event. I mean, plus finally confirming. I mean, dude, like, you reading that article, me remembering, Final Fantasy Versus 13 being announced in 2006, like, holy shit, man, that was 10 years ago. That's crazy, man. I was like fresh out of high school when that game was announced, and now it's finally coming out. It's nuts, man. But yeah, that's crazy. But
it is.
No, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, it has been ridiculous, the development period in this game, obviously, for the hellhole and everything else that's going on. But, with Hajime Tabata taking over and the project really moving forward, it has shown in the demo. Like, the kind of an idea of even putting that demo out before the game comes out is just kind of building that anticipation for probably one of the biggest JRPGs in a long time. Because, like, Final Fantasy itself has bigger repercussions for, like, what the overall, scope of that game will be in terms of, like, will more games come out? Will they follow the same format? Is it going to go traditional? Is it going to go a new kind of like a new age kind of Final Fantasy, whatever? But I didn't watch the event, but I did watch all the news come out, and obviously the movie, the anime series, everything they're trying to do for it, they are riding a lot on it. So it's big.
They're doing world building right out of the gate. It's not like how, remember with Final Fantasy VII, the game came out, and then like almost 10 years later, they did the world building. Like they had the spin-offs and the movie and all that. They're doing this right out of the gate. Like immediately, it's like, here you go. Here's the movie with some big actors in it. Here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. I mean, it's ginormous, man. It's huge. I don't know how I feel about, like, to be honest, the event was pretty cool, by the way. I did see it live. It was about like an hour and like 15 minutes or something long. It was nice, man. It was a cool little thing that they did. They had the creator, the father of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakurai. He came out and started talking for a little bit, and he was pretty cool. Yeah, it was cool, man. I dug it. I mean, you could tell Square is definitely trying to make up from like the mistakes people felt they've done. I mean, 13 wasn't well received, and 14 they had to fucking relaunch it because no one liked it. So they've had some issues with the core series. I'm very happy that Versus 13 is not just a spin-off, it's a core series entry, because it really does look unique, and I think it's worthy now that they've redeveloped it as a next-gen console game. It really does look worthy enough to be considered, part of the main series entry. So yeah, we'll see how it all turns out, man. But I'm super excited for it. I'm definitely it's one of the games I'm getting this year. One of the 12 I buy. September 30th. I'm there, man. And that's worldwide, right?
Yeah, I think that's worldwide.
So smart, super smart of them to do that. Yeah, man, it's great. September 30th. So basically October, you get the game, and yeah, it's fucking great, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But speaking of another huge game that's coming out this year that I know you and I are both excited for, and probably you more than me, dude, to be honest. But
maybe.
Why don't you take these next two pieces, dude?
Right. Okay. So, fucking
was that Mitomo?
No.
Yeah.
That was my phone not being on silent. No, not Chris. This is what fucking happens. It ruins our podcast.
It's becoming self-aware. It becomes self-aware on March 31st, 3:48 p.m. EST. Mitomo started killing all the lieutenants. That's what it feels like. Like, first we give a headline show, then we spoiler cast, and finally it made Batman v Superman. I would love to do a whole show as Arnold Schwarzenegger. That'd be so funny.
The next big news comes from the Coalition, talking about Gears of War 4. So the Gears of War 4 story is designed to lay foundations for a new trilogy in the franchise and a whole new universe that can be explored going forward. Speaking in an interview with Game Informer, various members of the Coalition, the Microsoft studio heading up development of the franchise, discussed picking up where Gears of War 3 left off and charting a new path for its heroes. Chuck Ozdzik, creative director of the sequel, said, and I quote, "For us, it was okay moving forward. How do we ever set up foundation for not just a trilogy, but for a much larger universe?" And in addition, on top of that, studio head Rod Ferguson added, and I quote, "We talked about things like alternate planets and things like that, but we wanted to stay on Sierra because we wanted to have the opportunity to revisit old places and use specific weapons to have these touchstones to the past." And he continued saying, "That's when we decided, let's go all the way forward. Let's put enough time in and have a new generation of heroes and create JD Phoenix, Marcus's son." End quote. According to Ferguson, who also worked on the previous trilogy when it was developed by Epic Games, players won't begin Gears of War 4 as part of a larger COG army. Instead, it begins with JD and his friends operating outside of the military hierarchy after going AWOL. Ferguson said, and I quote, "They're outsiders, a sort of splinter faction for people who didn't want to live under the oppression of the new COG. I think you see the COG as adversaries. I wouldn't say enemies, as that's a little strong." End quote. The story is set over the course of one night, starting in an afternoon and then finishing in the morning. JD and his squad must survive the night and find the mother of his teammate, Kate. It is described as a personal story about, quote, 3 people being in the woods for one night, end quote. And as a result, it draws upon the themes of survival and horror. The first entry in the series also did.
Oh my god, you're right. They're like themes of survival horror, the first. Like he stuttered, like he's like, the first entry.
Interestingly as well, Ferguson also discussed his aspirations for the new Gears of War trilogy, saying he isn't aiming for it to be, quote, the greatest story ever told, end quote. He added, and I quote, when you're dealing with a game type where the one interaction you have with the world is what is with what you shoot. It makes it really hard to tell a heartfelt story. Probably The Last of Us is the closest we've come to accomplishing that. I'm not sitting here saying that we're trying to be the be all and end all of storytelling. For us, it's about creating compelling characters again. Oh, sorry, I'm going crazy. For us, it's about creating compelling characters, world, and doing cool shit that we can go back to again and again. So that's the first story. We'll come back to this and tackle in a minute, 'cause we're going to add on to another story.
Yeah.
So Epic Games, this is coming from now, who originally had a vision for Gears of War 4. So the story goes, this is from Game Informer again, Epic Games created the Gears of War franchise and the series became incredibly successful for the studio. So after wrapping up the original trilogy, the company who wasn't planning on putting the Gears franchise in a box and throwing it in cold storage. While People Can Fly helped co-develop the side story that became Gears of War Judgment, which is a fucking atrocious game. That's my input in this game.
No, that's in the article.
A smaller team inside Epic itself started to dream up a proper Gears of War 4. This is everything we know about what happened to that project. Gears of War became something of a flagship for Epic Games. The first entry released almost a decade ago and quickly became the fastest selling title of 2006. Sorry, Gears of War 2 fared even better, selling more than 2 million copies on its first weekend, while Gears of War 3 pushed the series past 1 billion in total, becoming the second Xbox franchise to hit that milestone, the first being Halo, of course. According to Coalition, Gears fans have played more than 2.3 billion hours of Gears of War 3's multiplayer, logging in 22 million hours on Gears of War 3 in January of this year alone. Probably about 2 billion of those hours are mine, but it's hard to ignore the fact that Gears of War is... Wait, okay, I'm just going to get to the thingy. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to start from here. After Microsoft bought the Gears of War franchise in 2013, it was sent all the files and technology Epic had created for Gears of War 4. The Coalition essentially raided Epic's, quote, basement, end quote, to find the studio's story treatments and old pieces of concept art. Some of the things that are now in Gears of War 4, such as the idea of setting the game in the future, the idea that Marcus would have a son, and even the name JD, were all ideas originally developed at Epic prior to the Microsoft sale.
Interesting.
Rod Ferguson again said, and I quote, "When I was at Epic, we started some Gears of War 4 planning. When I got here to the Coalition, we realized really fast that with all these new perspectives on the series, it was going to take a long time to do reproduction on the game. So I said, why don't we tap into some of the work that I was doing at Epic when I was working on Gears of War 4 there? We went back in and looked at what the team had done, and after I left, it was not really in a place that I was happy with. So we actually rewound it to a point before I left. Of course, Epic's work on the new entry in the series was a great jumping on point for the Coalition. The team was even inspired by Epic's vision for a new Gears enemy type. And Ferguson said again, and I quote, "If it wasn't any good, we wouldn't have used it. However, the swarm in Epic's original take was different from ours. We started talking about what the swarm would be at Epic, but the Coalition completely changed it as we developed the game on our own. The name stuck, but none of the monsters stuck." We're still going. So what happened to Epic's vision? Epic worked on Gears of War 4's pre-production for over 6 months before finally abandoning the project and ultimately choosing to sell the franchise to Microsoft. However, even before Epic sold the franchise, Ferguson could tell that the change was in the air. He said, and I quote, "Back in the days of Unreal Engine 3, Epic had this belief that we would only build technology that we could use. So if Gears of War didn't need it, if Gears didn't need it, it generally didn't get put into the engine. This was from a perspective of, if we don't use it, it's going to decay. If we don't touch it, it will just rot on the vine, and then we'd have a bad code. That's not how it was with Gears of War 4. Epic's initial Gears 4 engine was very mobile and PC-centric more than it was console-focused." Fucking hell. You can see their focus shift towards games like Fortnite and Paragon and stuff like that, end quote. So yeah, very interesting that. That's very interesting, that last part I took away. So we'll combine the stories with a quick chat over it. Very interesting how you said the Gears 4 engine was very mobile, PC-oriented and kind of less console-focused, which is like a very, very big no-no.
Yeah.
Especially how people perceived Gears of War Judgment for being like the biggest pile of steam trash that you'll ever fucking find. But like, they're shifting away from what their core audience was, which is a bit shocking. But the funny part is that the Gears of War 4 was in development at Epic Games,
Yeah.
and then shelved the project, and obviously Ferguson took a lot of the stuff that he'd been working on and re-embedded it into Gears. So it's a good starting off point. It means that you don't really have to completely start from scratch, doesn't it?
And a lot of it, I was surprised, man, that a lot of the like the concept of having the sun and all that was from Epic, and the name was from Epic and stuff like that. So that's cool. I think that's really interesting. Epic was already thinking of, hey, let's jump into the future. Like this is because I was thinking, man, this is clearly influenced by The Force Awakens a bit, right? Like setting in the future and stuff like that. But
I'm all from that.
yeah, like it was a lot before that. So yeah, I think that's really cool, man. I like it. Really, the general impression I get is that Epic didn't really know where they were going with Gears 4. They kind of had like a general idea, but then Microsoft bought the company, and they kind of completely, rebuilt it from the ground up. And now, going by the first Gears story, now they have like a whole new direction for the franchise, let alone a trilogy.
Yeah, I think Cliffy B had left the company at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely left the company. So I think they obviously were struggling with what the vision was. Ferguson being probably one of the only people still there, kind of like working on the project. But it was kind of like it was a hard problem though in terms of like where to set off with Gears of War after Gears of War 3, because it was almost like the concluding chapter of the trilogy, and then you wanted to kind of like live it on and bring a new life to it. Mm-hmm. Same as Mortal Kombat, the syndrome happened where they were just like rehashing games out, and just like the problems came, and then they just rebooted the entire series with Mortal Kombat 9. Obviously, Gears of War didn't need that, but Judgment showed that there was just an example where they completely strayed away the formula, and then Gears of War became like a hollow shell of what it was meant to be. But with 4 now, like kind of the idea here is right though, folks, saying like they want that kind of story being like very deeply embedded in these characters within the space where it's told over over a story over a night. Metal Gear Solid was told over the story of 24 hours. Mm-hmm. When you're telling a very deep and intricate story, you do want to kind of have that time and focus being put in perspective. So you're not jumping years, you're not jumping this point in a timeline where you get lost very quickly.
Right.
So yeah, they are thinking this very, very thoroughly through before executing anything.
Which is smart. I mean, I think that's what you do when you. It looks like when they got that franchise, dude, they weren't like, oh, let's just take a dump on it. Like they're like, let's actually do. Let's be respectful to like this series that basically launched Xbox 360. If you really think about it, like it was the first real game that people were like, oh man, this kicks ass. So yeah, no, very fascinating story. And again, man, I cannot wait for Gears 4. I mean, I really think it's going to be a really fun game, man. Yeah, I cannot wait for it.
When I'm not playing my Matomo in the lobby, I'll be playing Gears.
That'll be in between waiting for a match to start. Get that Mitomo,
That fucking Matomo. No, very excited though. Very, very excited. Good story as well. Like just kind of like learn about Epic Games and everything that happened after the sold off the rights and the idea that they did have Gears of War 4 in development. But yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, we have 2 quick pieces to kind of go over, just like little kind of interesting factoids that's happened, both Nintendo themes, so I'll jump right into it. So, you guys, if you saw or listened to last week's episode, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about a supposed leaked NX controller that was, making rounds on the internet. Well, it turns out that we were all played like goddamn fiddles because it wasn't real. It was a fake. In fact, the person who created the fake came out and, kind of said everything about this. He posted a video and everything explaining how he did it. So, basically, the creator of the leak, his name is Frank Sensvist. I probably butchered his name, but he said that he based Nintendo's NX controller off of the first set of images that were released. What is it called? The patent designs, like the engineering aspect of it, of how it was going to be made. And he said that the hoaxer created those by using Photoshop. So basically, the video just shows that he was able to make it by photoshopping things and all that stuff. He also notes that the thing was very uncomfortable to hold. But then again, his model didn't have two grip portions, as the Nintendo controller patent shows. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So it was all fake, man. So false alarm, not real. Yeah.
So Nintendo's actual announcement, the controller is even smaller.
Yeah, even more uncomfortable.
It's a mobile phone.
That'd be so funny. But yeah, so that's pretty much that piece of news. And then our last piece of gaming news, again, kind of a quick one. So Nintendo did a lot of crazy stuff today. The day, the time that we're recording this, March 31st. So first and foremost, Nintendo, of course, launched Mitomo, that Ad and I have been talking about already, the first ever app on a smartphone from Nintendo. They also launched the My Nintendo Loyalty program, which is the replacement to Club Nintendo. So that's out there, and you guys can sign in for that and whatnot. But they also created an enhanced digital store that has over 2,000 games launching with it to purchase on. So basically, you know how like you could buy digital games off of Xbox Live on your computer, and you could do the same thing with Sony through the PlayStation Store on your computer? Well, basically, Nintendo just released their own version of that, and that you could buy stuff for 3DS and Wii U. You need a Nintendo account and a linked Nintendo Network ID. And at the moment, they have 2,000 different games that use the Nintendo eShop balance. So it says here members will also be able to access to the store via their computer or smart device, with purchased titles being automatically sent to either their 3DS or Wii U system for download via Spot Pass. So yeah, pretty cool. It's similar to what the PlayStation application does on smartphones as well. So yeah, finally Nintendo, it seems, has caught up.
Mhm.
They've finally done
Right.
it, dude. I mean, this is something. I don't. I'm happy for Nintendo. It's also a bit embarrassing that it's the year 2016 and they have this available. I mean, granted, Sony. I think you could. How long has it been, dude, that on the PlayStation Store you can buy things on a PC? I know it wasn't at launch for PS3, but it's been out there for a while.
It's been there for a while, yeah.
Yeah, and same thing with Xbox. I think Xbox Live might have been the first that did it. But yeah, so Nintendo's finally caught up. So yeah, if you guys want to, for whatever reason, not buy something through your console, you can now do it on the computer, the safety of your own home. And, well, I guess you would be doing it the safety of your own home on your computer. But, like, you could type, right? You have a keyboard. Yeah, while you're doing Mitomo, no less. So.
Oh, yes.
So big things for Nintendo, really cool, and that actually wraps up the gaming section of our news. So we'll go ahead. We have a couple of quick pieces here for the movie and TV section. Dude, Adnan, why don't you take us away with this first movie piece?
Yeah. Okay. So, Deadline is reporting that 73-year-old Beatles legend Paul McCartney is taking part in additional shooting on the fifth film in Walt Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean series, the movie, which is called Dead Men Tell No Tales. So while there is no official indication of who McCartney is playing, it is no doubt a play on Jack Sparrow's Popper, having been played by Keith Richards, guitarist for the Beatles' British invasion rivals, the Rolling Stones. Oh dear God, you can tell this is fucking written by some American, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Could he be playing Sparrow's uncle, Will Turner's grandfather, a totally new character? Then loads of fucking suggestions in this article, which are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But right, so yeah, that's the news in its fucking self. That Paul McCartney is in Dead Men Tell No Tales, and the film was debuted in cinemas on May 26, 2017. Chris, you found this news story. Why the hell is it in this drive?
Why is it this what?
Why the hell is it in this drive? Why are we talking about this?
I think this is interesting, man. I just think it's funny that like Paul McCartney is in a fucking Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like, I just, the whole production of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, has been so weird, dude. They filmed the movie last year. So,
yeah.
And they've been filming other I'm sure this cameo of his, I'm sure it's going to be a cameo, is like something that they decided to do in pickups. But I just think this is such a weird production of the film. We still have no idea who's in the movie. I think Will Turner's in it. They never really confirmed it, but I'm pretty sure he's in the movie. Yeah, Orlando Bloom is in it. So he's
Yeah, Jeffrey
back.
Rush and Johnny
Yeah.
Depp.
Yeah, and Javier Bardem is in it. He's playing the main bad guy, Captain Salazar. So they have an Academy Award-winning actor in it. They've been really just handling how this movie has been made really weird. Two directors are directing it. It's a directing team, and on top of that, Paul McCartney's in it. So I just wanted to take the time to just say, like, this is a very odd production. And on top of that, the movie comes out next year, so they filmed it 2 years in advance, like it's like a Star Wars prequel or something. And now it's going to be coming out in 2017. I don't know, dude. I just thought it'd be curious to talk about it. It's a very odd production, this movie. I don't like. I guess I'm kind of curious to see Paul McCartney acting. I don't think I've ever seen him act before. I mean, he's a great musician. I love his work. He was awesome. He kicked ass in the Beatles and Wings. Wings was the shit. But
This
I don't know.
this story just speaks tenfold in itself about the Pirates of the Caribbean production. How little they gave a shit about this movie, and they just don't want to. They just want to put a star power behind to get revenue and leave it. This seriously been
I think it's
sinking.
dead. It's sinking.
And no pun intended at all. But it has been sinking really badly since like the first film.
Yeah, I still think the first one was the best movie.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without any kind of question. It was so original, and then originality was fucking killed off very quickly, wasn't it? With spontaneous sequels and English people get Orlando Bloom and fucking Keira Knightley to kill the story and kill any kind of like interest in the movie, like especially when you put them in the center screen of everything. No, I'm not surprised by this. It kind of just speaks volumes for itself. But at the end of the day, this film will probably be a commercial success. Ish.
I mean, it's like Jack Sparrow was one of those characters that in the first movie, holy shit, he was so fucking good. Like in the first movie, he was such a fun character to watch, and like Johnny Depp just transformed himself. But then, when you got to the second movie, you're like, what is going on here? And then the third movie, you're like, all right. And then by the fourth movie, you're like, all right, dude, look, what the fuck is going on here? And so I'm hoping that maybe they've listened to people, but yeah, I get the general impression, dude, that the series is, it's kind of going downhill a bit. Like sinking, I think was the most apt term that you used. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. Well, speaking of sinking, I have some Batman v Superman news here to talk about. So, as you guys know, Batman v Superman is out or in theaters right now. You can go and you could watch it, and opinions vary on that movie. Well, they're going to be doing a very interesting home video release. They're going to be releasing what is being called the Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut or Ultimate Edition of the movie, which actually originally Forbes said it was coming out July 16th. Now apparently it is not coming out on that day. Warner Brothers has retracted that, saying no, that's not true. But what is interesting about this news is that Zack Snyder recently spoke about this is a version of the movie that apparently is going to have an additional 30 minutes of footage added into the movie, meaning the movie will now be 3 hours long because it's already 2.5 hours. And apparently this is going to bump the film up to an R rating. So there's a quote here from Zack Snyder. It's a long one. I'll go through it. But basically, this is what Snyder said on the R-rated version of the movie. We call it the Ultimate Cut because to me, it's a deeper dive into... What?
Sorry, this is how you build... You can tell someone like on a PR team and say it's called the Ultimate Cut. It's how you sold it. I'm like... Continue.
No, I'll go get it. We call it the Ultimate Cut because to me, it's a deeper dive into that world, and there are storylines in there that get fleshed out by the longer version, Snyder says. I would say that we didn't really take out much of the Superman-Batman story because I felt like, that's kind of the movie. But there was some sort of interstitial stuff that surrounds the story that kind of finishes some of the ideas that we trim back. And I think that's what you get. There's a little bit of action. There's a little bit of violence that we trimmed out for the MPAA. that we put back. The Batman warehouse rescue, there's a couple of shots of Doomsday that were too intense. Then there's a little bit longer ending, sort of the ending sequence, and the opening of the movie. The North Africa sequence is really much different. It was in there until very recently, so all of it, it's finished. It was really just a function of time, to be honest, because the movie's long now, longish. I don't think it's long, but when you get over 2.5 hours, the studio starts getting nervous. I'm not James Cameron, who's like, no, it's 3 hours, suck it, which is cool, by the way. I just wanted to try and get it to a length that is workable. By the way, he did say that about James Cameron, which I think is kind of...
And that's what she said as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, basically it's 30 more minutes of footage. It's going to be an R rating. It looks like there's a lot of, like, you know, Doomsday apparently and Batman are the reasons why this is the case. I don't know.
I feel like I haven't watched this movie, but I feel like 30 minutes content on top of this movie doesn't sound like a good idea. When you talked about couldn't cut out any of the stuff around Batman and Superman, I completely agree with that. It should be cutting the stuff around Batman and Superman. You should cut like the stuff about Wonder Woman and all the other shit that you put into the movie. But Chris, you've seen this movie. Give me a take.
On adding 30 more minutes?
Well, just in general, give me a hit me.
Hit me.
Hit me.
Hit me. Okay, so, well, the movie itself, dude, I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's a mess of a movie. I think 2.5 hours. I personally think the movie should have been an hour and a half. All right, 2.5 hours.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Not even seeing the movie. Superhero movies drag themselves out way too much with fucking long and pointless plot strains. But continue. I want to hear what you say. Go.
Yeah, so, no, dude, way too long. Should have been an hour and a half. I think the film should have focused primarily on the namesake, which is Batman v Superman. It was more Dawn of Justice, less Batman v Superman. I think they spent way too much time getting people excited about future films in the universe. Like, literally, without spoiling anything, there's a moment in the movie where I feel like the movie paused just to showcase several cameos from, you know, like we've reported in the past, the Justice League make cameos in the movie. Literally, the movie stopped. I felt like the whole movie stopped just to show the cameos, so we know they exist in the universe, and then move on. And it was pathetic. It was it's a mess of a movie. I don't know how I feel about 30 more minutes being added. I mean, the thing is, the movie has such little character moments, and to be quite honest, such little plot, that I'm almost hoping the 30 extra minutes will add that, but it seems like the 30 extra minutes is just more action sequences and shit like that. I've heard that Jenna Malone, who was recently in the Hunger Games films, she plays Barbara Gordon in the movie. Apparently she shot a scene as Barbara Gordon that was cut from the movie that Snyder said in an interview was super important, but they had to cut it from the movie for time purposes. So
you can't say that's a contradiction in itself.
Yeah,
super
right?
Important,
super important, but we cut it. We also cut the fight at the end of the movie, too.
To that moment in Scream when the killers are revealed, we had to cut it because, like, the movie was too long. Wes Craven said in an interview in 2008. Like,
just, she wins, right? So that's all that matters.
Ridiculous. Like, it makes... Like, I think this is the problem because of how bad this film is being perceived.
Yeah.
And Snyder's had to come out on the defensive, and very defensively as well, because, like, a lot of stuff I've seen, he has come out purely in defense and kind of, like, tried to justify what he's done. A lot of it doesn't make sense as well when he's trying to justify an Ultimate Edition to kind of say, you haven't seen the full picture yet, but it's like, we just paid to go and see the full fucking picture, and you're cutting stuff out of it. It's like, what? Like, a lot of it just doesn't seem to make sense. I haven't seen this movie. I do want to watch it, but, like, at the same time, like, there's so much stuff about it. I'm like, right. And it's kind of what you said, like, what you said about the entire thing, like, it's like, it just pauses and becomes a Justice League promotion movie. I'm like, that's what I don't want. The entire point is, and I think you said about it being more of a Dawn of Justice movie than a Batman v Superman thing. That's the problem we had from the beginning, because it's like, that's where the expectations are set at an all-time low, because it's like, there's no real setting point up to it. And people should, I think I've heard a lot of people just saying it should be Man of Steel 2.
Basically, it is, at its core, dude, it is essentially Man of Steel 2. A lot of the times, Batman, who, by the way, Batman played by Ben Affleck, fucking excellent. Like, there is, like, honestly, dude, there are moments where I'm like, he's like, he almost makes the movie better. Like, if you were to cut everything out of the movie and just have Batman in it, the movie would probably be an hour and a half. and would be a really good movie. I mean, some of it wouldn't make sense. You'd be like, I don't get Superman's side of the story, but it would probably be a better movie than what we got. But yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, dude. The one thing that movie did well is that I liked Wonder Woman and I liked Batman. It also further reinforced, I find the DC Extended Universe's Superman so fucking boring. I just find him really boring. He's just very dark and he's nothing like, Christopher Reeve's Superman, which is Superman. Like, he's just too dark for me. And it's like, dude, like, okay, man, we get it. You're like, I'm an alien and nobody understands me. But, like, fucking A, get over it. Become the Man of Steel,
This is the shame, though, for me, because I feel like Snyder did what Snyder's angle for Superman was what I liked.
Right.
But it feels like kind of the original concept, or kind of the concept of what he is, kind of like the alien who's kind of like a little bit silent and kind of like distraught because he really doesn't know what purposes he's trying to find to be a hero.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like there's so many conflicting ideas of what a hero really is, and kind of like is he, and still he feels like in every essence he feels like an alien on this planet. Mm-hmm. Like, and the kind of idea when they're doing those trailers and promotions of like him being a god, him being a devil, him being this and that, it was kind of fitting for what it was.
Right.
Obviously when you go to kind of like, if you watch Supergirl, for example, like I have been doing lately anyway, like it's very cartoonish and it's very good for what it is. Like it sets that kind of universe, it sets the tone. It's very kind of like, red, white, blue kind of fucking starts singing the US national anthem. It's just one of those. Mm-hmm. But like I feel like what his direction was just got lost in the kind of like final concept of it. Because if you got Henry Cavill, gave him no fucking room to act, and he just became wooden. And I heard again the criticism is Cavill is wooden. And I'm like, why is he so wooden? He doesn't have to be so fucking uptight about everything.
Yeah.
He can kind of have a sense of humor. He can kind of, like, the other problem was with like Man of Steel, we didn't see Clark Kent. We didn't really see the true side of what Clark Kent is.
Yeah.
There were great moments where it's not about being Pa Kent being like the guy who's saying, oh, let those kids die on the bus. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, why is Pa Kent so fucking morally upright? It's like, at the end of the day, his priority is to make sure his son, who he cares about most, isn't fucking seen as an alien to everyone. To the whole world where he reveals his existence. If he has to kill a load of kids and not save them, well, fair enough. Like, within reason, like, it's a little bit thing where he's like, I don't want you to really reveal yourself to the world where they come and dissect you, or you could let those kids die. It's like, right, fair enough.
There's a metaphor for coming out of the closet somewhere in that movie.
Wow,
Man of Steel, that's what that movie's about, probably. And I think, in a way, that's beautiful, but I highly doubt that was their intentions. But you see, that could have been a cooler angle to that. That would have been, how much cooler would that movie have been if they used that as an angle, similar to how the X-Men films do that? So it would have connected to people more, like, like sharing a secret with people. Not just homosexuality, but it could be anything. It could be something that you don't feel comfortable talking to other people about because of prejudice in the world, like ignorant people, stuff like that. Like, that would have been a way more cooler thing. Instead, like you're describing, the scene was so fucking silly. Like, it was what that scene felt like? I know we're off topic right now, but that scene kind of felt like, oh, well, it's written in the script, so we got to do it. It didn't feel like there's a reason why it had to be done. Like, what was the motivation,
But the thing is, what I like about Snyder is that he switched the roles, because what Pa Kent was meant to be originally, that's what Clark's mum became. Like, she was the compassionate. That's where Cavill really shone, because, like, it was where he showed compassion and kind of like that idea of what Superman is, and the female figure being more influential to him. Right. Because Pa Kent, like, gave him kind of like this, like, he died, like, he became a martyr just so he could kind of inspire something in him. But it's kind of like a direct message of, like, maybe the world isn't ready to accept you. But then his mum's like, it did that great thing in the trailers where it's like, you can be their hero or don't do anything. It's like, you don't owe this planet anything. Like, it's a good idea for what she is, because she's like that voice of reason. She's like, I care about you being my son more than Superman.
Right.
But I feel like that's what it had a good angle, but then he kind of conflicted it too much. But off the topic, away from Man of Steel, because we could do that fucking spoiler testing itself. I do defend that movie quite a bit. I like it a fair bit. But,
dude, I can't wait for that. No, you guys be there too, because that'll be the fight of the century. Hadden versus V. Chris, Dawn of the Review.
Dawn of Miotos.
It'll be more of a review than a fight, but it'll be funny. You guys will see.
No, I fair enough. Like, I can see where this entire story is coming from, like this news story. But like, at the end of the day, I remember buying the Peter Jackson Blu-ray version of King Kong. They added fucking 50 minutes of CGI footage, which wasn't needed. It extended the footage. I'm like, this film, it's taking too long to finish. This film has ridiculous amounts of CGI. They could have just cut it and saved budgets. Batman v Superman is going to be like something else now. The studio's going to really have to like put their head down and start making independent films of it. I think the cross universe thing hasn't worked. In comparison, though, because we will be doing a spoiler cast in it in a month or so on Supergirl, the crossover. Even though I've not really watched The Flash, it was a very good crossover. From where I could really understand it and appreciate it from my perspective, I enjoyed that. I thought that was a better version of crossover what DC should really be looking at in their movies.
Yeah, definitely. No, dude, I agree. I think, I mean, we'll see how everything kind of turns out at the end of the day, but, so, we'll save that for the spoiler cast, I think. It's gonna be good, dude. We have a lot to talk about, but actually, well, speaking of superhero movies, dude, and Batman v Superman, why don't you take this last, not last movie piece, but this next one.
Mm-hmm. So, after his extensive work in the DC universe, including the recent Zack Snyder-directed Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, composer Hans Zimmer has announced to the BBC that he is retiring from doing music for superhero movies. He said, and I quote, "I did Batman Begins with Christopher Nolan 12 years ago, so the Dark Knight trilogy might be the 3 movies to you. So to me, it was 11 years of my life," end quote. In addition to the trilogy, he also scored Man of Steel and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Zimmer was initially reluctant to return for Batman v Superman, and it appears his work on the new film with Junkie XL maybe in the straw that broke the camel's back. He said, and I quote, This one was very hard for me to do, to try to find my new language," end quote. So yeah, big news from Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, great composer.
Definitely. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, fucking phenomenal. I mean, he did the dun, 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 dun. What is it? It's a tank! Dun, dun, dun. You know, like that Batman theme of him when he's in the tank and shit. Dun, dun. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. I can't even emulate it with my voice, but
you're there. You're getting there. You're getting there.
Oh, it's like really epic. Dude, you know what, man? I mean, some composers, you got to find your calling, right? And he's done 5, well, now 6 with Batman v Superman, because it's 3 Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel, Spider-Man 2, and then this one. So that's 6 movies he did, composition for. Some people are tired after that, man. Some people are like, you know what,
I think
man?
Everyone's fucking tired of superheroes.
Yeah, they're like,
if Hans Zimmer's drawn the last fucking straw, I think it's kind of a message.
Yeah. So, that's curious that he won't go and he did all these new themes for these characters too, by the way. Like, he did.
To be honest. Sorry, I should finish off.
No, I was gonna say he did all these new themes for like Batman and Wonder Woman in this new movie. So it's curious that the guy who created those themes is leaving. So if they continue, when they continue forward, I'd be curious if maybe they're gonna redo the themes. Maybe they're like, "Fuck this shit," and maybe they try something else.
They'll do what they did with Star Wars, with like John Williams.
Yeah, or Harry Potter, because he did the first 3.
Or Jurassic Park, or like anything else that he can.
Yeah,
I think they'll be like,
life finds a way.
That's what Hans Zimmer says whilst he looks at a picture of John Williams on the wall, who did the exact same thing before him. No, I agree completely. Like, Hans Zimmer is more talented than to fucking superhero mass-produced superhero movies, and that's not offensive against superhero movies. The guy is a lot better, because I remember Beyond Two Souls, him and Lorne Balfour, the fucking soundtrack of that game is immense.
Yeah.
Whatever you think of Beyond Two Souls, like, that fucking soundtrack is amazing. And he has got a lot of potential. I'd love to see him do some original work. Obviously, superhero movies aren't really going to warrant too many Oscars as well.
Yeah.
Or kind of like, Golden Globes. So his own career is kind of like looking into that. But I do think, like, maybe it's just that thing. Maybe it's just so many movies. Like, you know what? I can go and do other movies, the big projects. Who knows what he's turned down to do these other movies, to work with Nolan and everything else. And I think maybe it's just time for him to do that. And fair enough. Fair play to him, mate. Fair play.
Yeah, dude. Plus, it takes a lot of like. It shows you're not like a quote unquote sellout. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of look at your stuff and you're like, you know what, man, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna do something else. Like, it shows you have like artistic integrity for what you do, and you're not just like doing it for the money and stuff like that. Because I think that's important. You got to be true to your work, and in this case, his work is art, so you got to kind of be true to that.